Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I used to be a chef in a Mexican restaurant in a small town in Australia nearly 40 years ago. We were modestly popular and I loved working there. One night, a young man came in to dine with a young lady. It was very obviously a first date. They ordered the nachos to share with a side of jalapenos for their entry. And he ordered the steak Veracruz hot for his main, and the young lady ordered the chicken burrito mild for hers. As I usually did throughout the night, would walk around the tables and ask if people were enjoying the food. As for the nachos, I checked on them and the young man informed me that the chili that accompanied the nachos were not hot at all, and that he loved hot food. I was informed that he had traveled extensively and had eaten some of the hottest food in the world and that no one had ever made a dish too hot for him. He reiterated that he wanted his steak main extra hot. To be honest, I found him to be pompous and rather obnoxious in the way he was speaking down to me, and found myself taking a disliking to him. I will add at this point that the young lady was looking a little uncomfortable, and I got the impression her date was not going as she had expected. I headed to the kitchen, and I made her a lovely chicken burrito while putting together his steak. He wanted it hot, he was going to get it. Our steak Veracruz was usually a steak cooked and topped with our house tomato sauce base with some capsicums, bell peppers for you Americans, and onions with a touch of chili. On this occasion, I set to work. Keep in mind this is Australia back in the 80s and we did not get a lot of different chilies back then, and jalapeno was considered hot by most Aussie palates. Hey, we were an uneducated bunch. I had a few bird-eye chilies in the kitchen that were mainly there for the staff and the resident Mexican guitarist meals, so I started with those. I finally diced about 10 of those with their seeds. I then started sweating off my onions and capsicums. I then threw in the chilies and then I added about a tablespoon of chili powder and about a tablespoon of cayenne. I soon felt the fumes hit my nose and the back of my throat, and my eyes started watering. I ran to the door of the kitchen to get a breath of breathable air as the air in my tiny kitchen was rapidly becoming unbreathable. I ran back to my pan and put a ladle on the house tomato sauce in. I then let that simmer for a few minutes. I then added some chopped up jalapenos from a jar in my fridge and thought why not, and in went a bit more chili powder. I then put the flash fried steak in to finish it off in the sauce. I served it all up on a plate with some rice, served up the chicken burrito, and hit the bell for the waitress to serve it to the table. The waitress came back and told me that as she placed it in front of him, he said, "This had better be hot." She assured him that chef had done as he requested. I went to the door of the kitchen, joined by my waitress, to watch the show unfold. And unfold it did. I watched with glee as he sliced the steak, took a piece on his fork, and with a smug look on his face, he put it in his mouth. He took a bite and then realized his mistake. I saw it. That moment when his face changed, but he was trying so hard not to show it. He couldn't though. He was on a date and he had bragged so hard and now he had to go through with it. He ate the steak. I could see every ounce of pain on his face. He struggled hard. His date watched him with a slight smile on her lips, and I got the impression that she was thoroughly enjoying his pain. He went through several jugs of water. He sweated. He barely spoke. He looked damned uncomfortable. At the end of the meal, I came out of the kitchen and asked him if he had enjoyed his meal. His words could have been hotter. He never came back. His date? She became a regular and told us he was an insufferable fool and she never saw him again. I have no regrets other than I wish Carolina Reapers had been around then. I was out shopping at the local mall, minding my own business, when I saw her, a woman accompanied by a child, walking straight towards me. I knew what she was going to say before she even opened her mouth. You see, I live in a state where open carry is legal, and I choose to exercise that right for my own safety. I've been through an incident in the past that has forced me to carry a gun publicly in hopes of preventing such a thing from happening again. I used to be a regular person going about my daily business, but one day, while I was at home with my family, we were the victims of a home invasion. We were robbed, beaten, and left for dead. It was a traumatic experience that left both physical and emotional scars. After that, I decided to arm myself for protection and started to carry my weapon in public. I took classes, obtained my permits, and became proficient in handling my weapon. It gives me a sense of security knowing that I can protect myself and my loved ones if something like that ever happens again. It's important for me to carry my weapon in a safe and responsible manner. I always make sure to follow the laws and regulations of my state, and I never use my weapon in a reckless or irresponsible way. I understand that some people may not agree with my choice, but it's a personal decision that I make for my safety and the safety of my family. As she approached me, the woman, Karen, said,
"Excuse me, sir, can my son see your gun? He's interested in becoming a cop in the future and wants to see one up close."
I replied politely, "I understand your son's interest in law enforcement, and it's commendable that he wants to pursue that career path, but I'm sorry, I can't let him see my gun. It is not safe for him or anyone else to handle a weapon without proper training and safety precautions. Handing a firearm to someone without proper training can lead to accidents and injuries. It is important that we prioritize safety above all else." I also added, "I will be happy to recommend some resources for your son to learn about gun safety and handling if he's interested, but I'm afraid I can't let him handle my weapon. It is not only illegal, but also not responsible." Karen seemed not to understand or accept my explanation, and she started to raise her voice and make demands. But I stood my ground and repeated my explanation politely but firmly. I understood her son's curiosity, but safety must come first.
"What do you mean it's not safe? You're carrying it around in public, aren't you?"
Karen retorted, her tone becoming increasingly hostile. I knew that I needed to defuse the situation and explain to her the importance of proper training and safety precautions when handling firearms. So I replied calmly, "Ma'am, just because it's legal for me to carry a weapon in public doesn't mean it's safe for anyone to handle it without proper training and precautions. Carrying a weapon in public is a serious responsibility, and it's important that I'm properly trained and familiar with my weapon to ensure the safety of myself and those around me." But Karen wouldn't have it. She started to raise her voice.
"You're going to show my son that gun right now, or I will have you arrested."
I knew that I had to stand my ground and not compromise on safety. I replied firmly, "I'm sorry, but I can't do that. It's not safe and I'm not comfortable with it. I understand your son's curiosity, but handing a weapon to someone without proper training can lead to accidents and injuries. I must prioritize safety above all else." I know that I'm sort of repeating myself at this point, but I had to be patient, calm and contained, especially in a situation like this. It's extremely dangerous if you get out of that zone with a gun on your side. I could see that Karen was becoming more agitated, and I knew that I needed to end the interaction before it escalated any further. I politely excused myself and walked away, leaving Karen and her child behind. I knew that the situation could have turned out much worse if I had not stood my ground and upheld my commitment to safety and responsibility. Karen's face turned red with anger and she continued to threaten me.
"You'll be sorry for this. I'll make sure you never carry a gun again."
She spat at me. I could see the hostility and aggression in her eyes, and I knew that I needed to be prepared for anything now. And that's when she suddenly lunged at me, trying to snatch my gun out of its holster. I was caught off guard, but I quickly regained my composure and acted fast. I grabbed her wrist, twisted it, and with a firm grip, I called out for someone to dial 911. I knew that I needed to control the situation and prevent her from getting her hands on my weapon. But Just as the manager came running towards us, he shouted at me to release Karen right now. Let her go. What are you doing? I get it. From an outside point of view, it doesn't look good. He was worried about how it would look to others, but I knew that I was doing the right thing. I was protecting myself and others from a potentially dangerous situation. I complied with the manager's request and released Karen. But I kept my guard up, watching her closely. I knew that the situation could escalate at any moment and that I needed to be prepared for anything. And exactly as I thought, Karen wasn't done yet. She was still filled with anger and aggression, and she was looking for a way to lash out. She grabbed a glass bottle of milk from a nearby table and charged at me, trying to smash it on my head. I could see the determination in her eyes, and I knew that I had to act fast to protect myself. I quickly grabbed her wrist again, but this time with the intention of disarming her and preventing her from causing harm. I twisted her arm trying to make her drop the bottle, but she wouldn't let go. She was still struggling and trying to hit me with the bottle. At that point, I knew that I had to protect myself by any means necessary. So, I headbutted her with the intention of stunning her long enough for her to drop the bottle and for me to disarm her. The headbutt was effective, and she dropped the bottle, falling unconscious to the ground. I quickly secured the bottle and made sure that it was out of her reach. I waited for the cops to arrive, keeping an eye on Karen to make sure she was safe and didn't wake up and try to attack me again. When the police arrived, they immediately took control of the situation and secured the area. They interviewed witnesses and took statements from everyone involved, including me and Karen. They also reviewed the security footage of the incident, which clearly showed Karen initiating the altercation, and my actions were in self-defense. Based on the evidence and statements, they arrested Karen for assault and creating a public disturbance. They also took my statement and cleared me of any wrongdoings as I had acted in self-defense. The police officers explained to me that they would have to file a report and that the incident will be forwarded to the district attorney's office for further review. This incident was a clear example of how not to behave in such situations and how dangerous it can be to try to handle someone else's weapon without proper training or permission. It also shows how important it is to always be aware of your surroundings and to be prepared for anything that might happen. It's important to understand that firearms are not toys and should be handled with extreme care and caution, and that every person has a right to defend themselves when they feel threatened. In college, I worked at the front desk for a dorm. Most of the time, it was a chill job. I worked nights and just had to help the occasional drunk student after they lost their keys. However, once a year, we had to deal with the worst of the worst, move-out. Anyone that's ever experienced move-out day knows the absolute freak show it is. During move-out, the supervisor scheduled double the people at the front desk, so I had to work during the day. Our front desk was in the main community space for the dorms. Out front of the space was a super small lane that led to the parking garage. Everyone that needed to get to the parking garage had to use this lane. My whole shift was going fairly well, just small complaints about moving bins and our lack of resources for the summer heat. So far so good, or so I thought. Up walks this family, a mom, dad and daughter that were clearly annoyed. My 3 other co-workers were busy, so it was up to me to help this family. Hi, what can I help you with? The mom in a snippy tone,
I was stung by a bee. I need some medical assistance.
Now, as a student worker, the last thing I was allowed to do was provide medical care of any kind. Couldn't even hand out a band-aid. Knowing that I can't help, I reply, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. As a desk worker, I'm not able to provide medical assistance, but..." The daughter cuts me off impatiently.
You don't even have a first aid kit? Can't you just give us something to help?
I would have assumed they were worried about the mom's health, but at this point they sounded more upset that they weren't getting their way. We don't have first aid kits because I am not allowed to administer aid. If you'd like to get help, I would recommend walking over to health services. The daughter, sounding progressively more entitled than annoyed,
You want us to walk all the way over to health services?
At this point, all I wanted was for them to leave, but I couldn't say that. There is also an urgent care and hospital right off campus if you are worried about a reaction. The mom says,
I'm not driving all the way over to a hospital. I just need help now. Can you call someone for help or something?
Cue the malicious compliance. Normally, I would call our non-emergency number for assistance, but this family clearly wanted quality care. Would you like me to call 911? I can see if they will help.
Yes, do something.
So I call 911. The operator asks me about the emergency, and I explain that it's a bee sting. Are they allergic? I ask the mom and she says,
well, no, but it's hurting.
The operator asks, do they have tweezers they could use to pull out the stinger? I ask the family, and to this, the daughter snaps. Why would we have tweezers? Of course we don't have tweezers. What kind of question is that? I relayed the message to the operator and let her know the family specifically requested medical care. She sighed, clearly annoyed by this non-emergency, and let me know she sent help. At this point, my line is getting incredibly long, so I asked the family to step to the side. When I tell them help is on the way, the mom asks,
what are they sending?
I don't know.
Well, I hope it's not a fire truck. That would be so embarrassing for just a bee sting.
A few minutes go by and I can tell the mom is starting to realize she may have overreacted. She tries to tell her family they can just leave, but the dad and daughter reminded her they are already sending someone. As they wait, up comes a massive fire truck, sirens blaring. All the other families at the front desk, which is a lot because this family held up the line, turned to see what's going on. The mom is absolutely mortified. She's looking around trying to hide behind her family. It's hilarious. She meets emergency services outside so they don't make a big scene in front of the other families. The best part? The fire truck had to stop in the teeny tiny lane out front to our community center, completely blocking the way into the parking garage. This means a line of cars was building up while she got her bee sting treated. With each car joining the line, she looked more and more embarrassed. Once she was treated, they came back in to get to the daughter's dorm. They walked quickly and avoided eye contact, clearly embarrassed by the overreaction. I hope they have learned to stop with the impatience and entitlement. As much as I hate calling 911 for trivial things, it was worth it to see the look of sheer humiliation on the mom's face. And I like to think the operator was looking out for me and fulfilling my malicious compliances to the highest degree. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.